Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first Degree Diaries series. I am Dr. Maria Teresa Orozco, but you can call me Terry. I am a first gen. I have a background in marriage and family therapy. And our first guest today is Coach Cirene. Welcome, Cirene. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for creating the space to be able to share about our journeys in higher education as first gen Latinas. And so, thank you for creating this space. A little bit about myself. I am Mexican. I am Puerto Rican from my father's side, Mexican from my mother's side, born here in the US in California. I am married, have been married for 13 years, going 13 years, I believe. I have two beautiful daughters, Zoe and Sky, ages almost 9 and 7. And yeah, a little bit about my academic journey. Um,
Yes.
I feel like I've been in school my whole life, which is great for me because that's the pathway that I uh, chose, that I have been on. So for me, higher education started after I graduated from Hawthorne High School. I went to El Camino College in Torrance.
Hmm.
And then talking about the first gen, experience, I didn't uh, know or believe that I can go straight into a 4-year university. So, what I knew at that stage in my life was community college is the option. And so I went to El Camino College. I was there for about 3 years. And then I transferred to Vanguard University in Costa Mesa, which was a school that I really, really wanted to go to. So I was so blessed to have been able to have had that opportunity. At Vanguard, I graduated with the bachelor's in communication and broadcast media,
Oh,
interestingly.
wow.
Yeah, and I have a little, I did that for a little bit after I graduated, did a lot of on-camera talent, and I fell in love with everything that happens behind the camera. And so I love production and did a little bit of radio, did a little bit of hosting a radio show, on camera talent, hosting different types of shows. So that was a really fun experience. It wasn't my calling, but it was what I was doing in that season of my life.
I could definitely see you on the radio.
Yeah, yeah. I loved it. I had a really good time doing it. Met some of my lifetime friends and sisters who are in my life now, some of my best friends. Shout out to Amber, shout out to Susie. Met them back then. And so that was my first journey. And once I finished my bachelor's, and after completing that thesis, for me, it was a 55-page paper. I said, I am never coming back to school. I am never going through that again. And what I did love about my project and my thesis, it was on feminist criticism. And
Mm,
my study was on Frida Kahlo, so it was a fun project, but it was a
right.
lot of work, something I had never done before. And that's why I said, I don't think I want to go through this process again. So I took a 10-year hiatus after that.
Oh, wow.
hmm
And during the time that you were doing your bachelor, did you have any support?
Um, so in that season of my life, I mean, I had my family and I did have my church. So what was really cool in that season of my life, the friendships and the circles that I was in, we were all like-minded. A lot of us went to Vanguard University. That's actually where, some of my story and my friendship with, our fellow Jefa Kita,
Mm-hmm.
to Vanguard together. And So we have a long history of friendship. But that community for me, the people in the school, I did get to live on campus. And so during that season, I think, yeah, I did have a lot of support. You know, I was in church. My friends from church were at a university, or we were doing a lot of things together. So that journey didn't feel lonely or
Right.
too confusing. Um, but one of the questions that I was able to review before, jumping on here was one of the biggest challenges faced while in school and in my undergrad, because I grew up in the South Bay area, Hawthorne, Inglewood, mostly, Latinos, African American. A big challenge for me when I went to Vanguard University is it was primarily a white school.
Mhm.
Um, we can count the minorities, on two hands maybe. And this we're talking about back in 2003.
Okay.
And I remember my first week there, I cried so much because I felt so out of place.
Hmm.
I felt like it was a big shock for me, culturally. And, you know, obviously that's something when it's new, when it's different, it's going to feel heavy. It's going to feel perhaps confusing. But my years at Vanguard were some of the best years of my life, some of the most formative years of my life. And I am so grateful. And I loved my experience there because I quickly learned how amazing the community was. My roommates, my floor roommates, and just everything that was happening on campus. Best years of my life. So much so that my desire now, we're talking about now we're in 2025, is I
Hmm.
really have this desire, as I will in the future pursue my doctorate's degree, to become a university professor. And I would love to go back to Vanguard and teach there.
Girl, yes, represent.
And you know what? What's the wildest thing is that now Vanguard is uh, what is it called? A minority serving university,
Hmm.
because now the minority is a high percentage.
Wow.
Hispanic Serving Institute. And I'm like boggled because I remember, um, when that was not the case.
How did you manage though, like when you find yourself in a space where like maybe you couldn't relate to anyone around there,
Yeah.
or you look different compared to,
Oh, yeah.
the people that were already there. How did you
100%.
manage that?
You know what? Because of my family history, my mom came from Mexico when she was 15 years old. She came to pursue a better life for herself, a better future for herself. We went through a lot, as a young family. My parents were together, then they separated and divorced when I was 7 years old, moving from home to home. I remember in fourth grade, I went to three different schools. So, one of the strengths I developed through those hard seasons was my adaptability.
Mm,
So, even though it was hard and even though it was new and it was different, I knew that I could still adapt. And I knew that, um, I can give this an opportunity.
right.
And that's what I did. And that's when I quickly learned this is something new for me. But the community here was so beautiful. We just look different externally, but we're all human.
Hmm. That's awesome.
Hmm.
That's really great. You mentioned you took 10 years off
Hmm.
and then you went on to pursue your master's.
Yes.
Can you
So
tell us about that?
yeah, absolutely. So after those 10 years, I met my husband, got married. I worked in the school district and, administratively, teacher's assistant. And I remember just getting to a point where, I wasn't sure if that was my how I wanted to my career to end, or I wondered and questioned what else is there for me? What else is there for me to pursue? And that in my last particular position as a principal secretary running a middle school, it did become really, really stressful. I was very unhappy and it was affecting me physically, especially when we were planning to get pregnant. The stress didn't help. And so that was the deciding factor for me to actually essentially leave my career, become a stay-at-home or preparation to be a stay-at-home mom. Um, and yeah, we got pregnant right away, to say the least. And and in that, because I knew I still, because I'm high functioning, so I still wanted to use my brain and learn and develop while I'm at home getting ready for, taking care of my newborn. And that's when, I wanted to pursue my master's. I knew it was time. I was going to be home. I felt I would have the capacity to do that. And my husband and I were able to manage our schedule so that I can go to, back then it was in person. Online wasn't
Mhm.
really an option or a popular option. So I went to Sousa Pacific University, where I got my master's in pastoral studies in soul care, essentially seminary, and that was a 5-year journey. In those 5 years, I gave birth twice. I was a
Oh,
stay-at-home
wow.
mom, taking care of my babies. So that was a journey for sure. It wasn't easy being a mom and having grad school homework as well.
I can imagine. And how did you manage? I mean, because being a student alone, it's so hard. Just finding the time to be on top of your studies and preparing for exams, writing papers. How did Serene manage to do it all?
Yeah, it was very difficult. And a lot of times it felt too much. At sometimes I wasn't able to complete all the homework or get the grade that I wanted or do the extra thing that I wanted. So in that sense, it was difficult, but I know I gave the best that I could with the capacity that I had.
Mhm.
And I can tell you that I did have mostly straight A's. Yes. And then in my second master's, I did have straight A's. So, and this comes again from my mom being an example because when I was at Vanguard, she started college
Mhm.
and then she ended up also pursuing her bachelor's and she was getting straight A's. And I'm like,
Ah,
she works full time. She's a full-time mom. She's a full-time wife, and she's getting straight A's. I don't have an excuse. I don't have an excuse. So I learned that from her, watching her being at the dining table, doing algebra,
hardest subject in my opinion.
and like I would go to her for help because math was never my thing. I can write a 55-page paper, but
Same
math
here,
is
girl.
not my thing.
I agree with you. That's my weakness.
Yeah, so I mean it was difficult, but one of the things about Degree Diaries is being able to share the story that this is hard.
Yes.
It is really hard. It does take a lot of sacrifice. Certain things are going to look differently in that season. But if you can learn, and this was probably one of the biggest things I learned as well, is if you can really have the mindset that this is for a season and like give your all in that season, I think you'll have the results that you would hope for. Sometimes when we see it as, oh, this is dragging, this is eternal, this is forever, or even with our close relationships, our family who, also has to support us to some degree, we're not as involved or as present. If we understand it's a season, I think that mindset really, really helps to push through because like it's just for a time being. Do your best during this, and the reward is going to be worth it.
Right. During the time that you were doing your master's, your first master's, Did you utilize any of the resources on campus? Were you aware of them, or what was your experience with resources and struggles that perhaps you encounter academically?
Yeah, so definitely with the resources, I love that you asked that question because I learned about resources through like flyers or having to go look for help, but always feeling like, can I ask for help? You know, how do I do this? And feeling, a bit of that intimidation or embarrassment because it's my first time and I'm not sure how to do it. And how do I ask for this? And am I asking the same question over and over again? Am I not getting it? So definitely struggled with some of that, but resources, at Azusa Pacific University, tons of resources, and specifically in that journey, oh my gosh, the support from my professors was incredible. And they were very, very helpful. Tutoring centers, writing centers. I lived at the library. There's so
Mm.
much research that goes
Yeah,
through master's degrees. So I lived at the library, but I'm also a bookworm. So that's kind of my second home. Um, but again, I also have a family, so for me that was very like I had usually like I believe it was 1 or 2 days a week that I would go to campus, and it was like a whole evening worth of an afternoon, like from 3 to 10 or something like that. But resources were definitely available, but they were intimidating because it's like, is this for me? Where do I go? How do I ask? Um, is it free? Things like that.
I think a lot of students that are first gen do go through that where how do I approach, how do I ask for help? Or like you said, I mean I had the do I belong here?
Oh
That
yeah.
doubt where am I really supposed to be here? And I'm surrounded when I was doing my master's, I was surrounded by um individuals that were older than me, also just higher different economic status,
Oh yeah.
bankers, teachers, like totally different than what I come from, right? And so I had doubts like, do I belong here? Am I in the right space, right? But you as you go through your journey, you learn that, yeah, it's tough, but you get through it with the inner strength that we have.
100%. Yeah. And I think a lot of schools do have a lot of resources, but again, it's the accessibility and the knowledge that they exist where, as first gen students, we're a bit shy about about asking for help or,
Mhm.
and, does that mean me? Does that mean that help is for me too? Um, but again, for my personal story, being adaptable, I know I tend to push through the discomfort of intimidation or embarrassment or, this is something new. I can feel all the feels, but I still push myself through. And that's been one of my strengths.
Right. Can you share with us, as much as you would like to share, about finances when it comes to school, financial aid?
Oh,
Like, did you get help with filling out forms, or how was your journey in that aspect?
a nightmare.
Uh,
A nightmare because I knew it was expensive and I didn't know how to pay for it. And the only resource that I was aware of was the FAFSA.
Mhm.
That's the only resource I knew at that time that I had knowledge of. Um, and most of the time, it was me trying to figure out how to fill out the application and having a few copies because I would make so many mistakes. I would make so many mistakes. I wouldn't know certain information. I mean, you got to pull up taxes and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, I don't even know how to do this. So, my source of financial aid was the FAFSA, which I'm very grateful for because that is what got me through, um, being that that's all I knew was my resource. Um, but now I'm aware that there's so many other options, and that is definitely something I wish I knew then.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that FAFSA is wonderful for, people that are, need that extra help. But I also feel they make it so challenging. They require so much information,
Hmm.
and it could be very intimidating.
Yes, it is.
So, was there a time, well, I know that you're a little outspoken, you share that confidence with us, but was there ever a time when you probably felt you were like afraid to speak up in class, or were you like the student that would stay quiet, or would you share what's on your mind? How were you in class?
I shared my mind. I definitely shared my mind because I knew my perspective was unique from the ones being shared.
Hmm.
And, when I did have, uh, felt that intimidation was definitely in the public speaking, like the presentations in front of my class, because that was more like eyes on you, um, and how you're speaking and how you're delivering. And I do remember comparing myself a lot, because I felt that other students just, knew or were so further along than I was when it comes to presenting. And one of the things that I've learned, even as I reflect on that now, is that that's just a belief that we have in the moment, which is absolutely normal because at the end of my presentations, I would get such great feedback from my professors.
That's awesome.
I'm the one who would second guess myself. And if anything, if anything, my professors were like, you can condense it a little bit, because mine tended to be long, and I always thought they weren't long enough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
No, but I do feel that we do tend to second guess ourselves, and
yeah.
we always feel like, perhaps someone is ahead of us, but it's like that belief and trust that we need to have within us, that we're here, we're studying, and you know, people are going through the same thing. Probably they're nervous,
Mhm,
but maybe they just don't display it. But it's, I feel for me that was a challenge as well. Just being, like you
mhm.
said, all eyes on me, and it's like, oh, they're gonna ask me questions afterwards. What am I gonna say? So it makes
Right.
so much sense.
Yeah, and that's part of the journey too. Like, you know, looking back too, and this is what I love about what you're doing here is that I wish I had someone to hear from that could say what we're saying now. That is normal. Feeling
Yes,
that and thinking that is normal. And it's okay to feel intimidated and even to mess up. Even if you mess up, that's okay. That's part of the journey. It's You're putting into practice the things that you're learning, and you're only going to develop them as you practice. And as we do these presentations and present these papers, or we're defending dissertations, like all of that is practice that's going to develop the very skill that we're learning about. And we somehow have this idea that we should have it perfect when we
yes,
do it. And that is a false belief, right? It's a limiting belief because it's good to have, that standard, of wanting to do your best. Absolutely do your best. But don't beat yourself up because it's part of the journey. You will get better the more and more you do it.
yes, I agree with you 100%.
Mhm.
So during your journey, was there ever a time when you probably wanted to give up, or what kept you going, like you just to pursue when times got hard, and maybe when you thought you couldn't manage an assignment, or you
Yeah.
had to juggle family life,
Oh,
not just your
absolutely.
studies, but family, being with your kids, your husband. How did you do this?
Yeah. So when I graduated from Azusa Pacific University in pastoral studies, soul care, it was the last class from that program, a 5-year journey that I had there, where I had a class on pastoral counseling. And again, as a first gen, not having representation, I didn't have language. I didn't know that that's what it was called. I knew all along where I want, what I wanted to do, how I wanted to help people, but I didn't know what it was called. I didn't even know that it was like a career. I didn't know these things. So when I sat in that class and they were giving me all this language and describing this role, I'm like, that's it. That's who I am. I've been operating in that role. I just don't have a title for it. And because my language and knowledge is limited, now it was like it opened up a little bit of heaven for me. And because of that, I was now aware that as I had the soul care and the theology background now, I needed the psychology portion in order to, fulfill the role that I wanted to do, which is counseling,
Hmm.
pastoral counseling. And so that's what led me to my second master's in pastoral counseling, completely online through Liberty University. And so I graduated in May of 2020, and then I started in August of 2020, my second master's. And yeah, that was the most challenging one for me was that second master's because I already have my two babies. So I have a baby and a toddler, two little toddlers. Obviously my marriage, and now it's grad school. And my first one, I took a 5 year, my slow pace. That was the pace. This one, I didn't have that luxury. I had to go full time. 2 years was my goal. And so that one was heavier on the demand with my time and my investment. So I'm talking about evenings and weekends for 2 years.
Hmm.
So that was
Wow.
that was definitely something heavy for my family. And unfortunately, again, in that season, we didn't have the awareness or, how do we go about this the healthiest way? So, I do understand that, I wasn't as present for both, everyone in my family. And that's something that we're now very conscious of as I do prepare for what my next educational step would be. But that was a big challenge was, navigating the balance and not even the balance, but even just like the rhythm. I don't like to use so much the word balance. I like to use rhythm because
Hmm.
it's not balance. It's not like let's put a scale and it's going to be balanced. No, it's what's the rhythm? Maybe this week looks like this. Maybe next week it's this rhythm. But there's consistency in connection, right? In my marriage, with my children, even myself, taking care of myself or in my friendships, and understanding that in that season, it was going to look different. I'm not
Right.
going to hang out all the time. I'm not going to do certain things in that season. And this is the mindset, that I felt was like the biggest learning for me is in that season, it's going to look different because my goal is different and that's okay. And being able to have that same support and understanding with your unit, I think is very, very helpful. And we've had, my husband and I have had countless of, conversations of how we did that wrong and how we can prepare to do it better, as I do plan out to pursue my doctorate's degree.
You
Yeah.
got this, girl. We
Yeah.
need more representation.
Yeah. Yeah. So family was, being able to find a healthy rhythm was one of the big challenges. And then within the scope of the education, it wasn't the learning portion for me that was a challenge because I can spend hours studying and I actually get lost in it because that's who I am. And so for me, it was more the tech stuff, all the techie stuff. That would make me like I had a few breakdowns my husband can share. I had a few breakdowns where a presentation completely changed format and I had spent so much time on it and there was no way I was and this again, here goes the self-doubt.
Hmm.
I had completed I think it was towards final, so it was a pretty big deal of a presentation. I had like, just try to go all out with my design, my formatting, my content, and really making it like, me, making it me. I'm loud, and I think you'll see that I have a big personality. So my presentations tend to be big as well. And I don't know, somehow when I wanted to save it, it was saying error, and it all of a sudden took away a lot of the design or the formatting, and I was like, this is horrific. I remember I had a few of those breakdowns, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This is too hard. This is too much. I don't want to turn in something that I don't feel represents my capacity, what I've invested, all that drama. I turn it in. Why do I get a response from my professor? Can I keep your presentation as an example to use in my class?
Oh, wow.
From the one that didn't format. And I'm thinking, if you only saw my original one, you think this one was good? I was ready to delete this one. But the self-doubt that it's not.
Definitely. And I feel that a lot of times being a first gen, a family doesn't understand the stress that we go through because like this is technical stuff, it's beyond our control. But it's like for us, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is my grade. It's a final. It's like 50%, right? And it's such a stressful
Yeah,
moment. Like
right.
for me, I during my doctoral program, I my USB broke. And I was just like I literally
Trágame
cried.
tierra.
No, I cried.
Oh yeah.
I paid $300 to get it restored.
Oh yeah.
I
I
was just like,
believe you.
I thought it was like the end. I'm just like, oh my God, I have everything on there. What am I gonna do? Like, I was literally in tears. And my family's like, it's okay. No, you don't understand. It's like I have my life there, like everything I worked for. So now I have multiple copies. Whenever
Oh
I have
yeah.
something to do, I always keep multiple copies because it is such a stressful
Oh yeah.
time.
Well, that's definitely a number one tip for current students and future students is like email it to yourself 5 times, save it in multiple places, email it to your mom, like
For real.
make sure it's saved somewhere in some cloud on earth.
No, because technology will get the best of us. It happens.
It does. It
It
does.
happens to the best of us, and it's just extremely stressful when we go through things
Yes.
like that.
Because we know what's at stake too. It's not just an assignment. I know for me, especially my pastoral, counseling degree, this was personal. This was very much aligned to my personal life, my calling, my purpose. And so to me, it has absolutely everything to do with how I will serve the community that I feel called to serve. And that's why I would get so lost in what I was learning, really, really deeply invested because it wasn't just an assignment.
Right,
This is my calling. This is what I'm passionate about. This is part of who I am, but improving it, enhancing it, upgrading it. And so to me, it was very personal. So absolutely, when family doesn't understand the weight of our commitment to our education, it's because that's where it can be like, you don't get how much this is not just an assignment. It's
yes.
not just a project. This is a lot more. And I think those of us who do pursue higher education, it's because it has more weight for who we are becoming and
Hmm.
how we want to bring meaning to our lives as we use our lives for a purpose.
Right. Before we wrap up, do you have any like study tips or things that you can share with the audience that you advice you can give them as far as studying?
For studying, well, the way I love to study is I love to have a space that I enjoy being in. I think that's key. You want to feel motivated. You want to be comfortable. For me, it's always been like I love lavender. I have lavender back here. I love candles. I have a candle back here. I have, picture of me and my dad right here,
Oh,
our wedding day. And unfortunately, my dad passed 6 years ago. So it's important for me to be surrounded by the things that motivate me, the things that inspire me. And I think that has been helpful for me to have a space that is also undistracted, that's peaceful, that's calm. I'll play, my background music. And I also love having all my tools. I want to have my research tools online. I want to have my books. I want to have all the tools that I need and just really make it an experience for myself. That's why when I said it to me, it was personal, especially my second master's. Um, like that was a sacred time for me. It wasn't just class. It was a sacred time for me. And um, I think for those of us who are really pursuing, our education for a great purpose, it's important to make that time, um, what you need it to be so that you're in it, you're present, you're absorbing, you're not just skimming to check off a task. And I
right.
understand, certain classes or certain chapters, you might do that and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I know for me, having an environment that is, undistracted and calm and motivating, that has definitely helped me.
Thank you for sharing that. And what advice would you give to a future or current student who may currently be struggling? What advice would Coach Serene give?
Hmm. Yeah, struggling is normal. Struggling is real. What you feel, the overwhelm, even the loneliness, because I know we talked a little bit about it could be a lonely journey in
Hmm.
higher education because it does require a lot of work. But if you, again, going back to mindset, what is your view on this season of your education? Because if you have that vision of what the purpose is and you keep that present, that will motivate you to stay focused, to stay disciplined, to stay consistent. And yeah, you're going to struggle. And yeah, it's going to be hard. And yeah, you're going to feel like you want to give up. We've all felt that, and it's okay. But the reward is worth what you're doing. Keep, you know, in mind the reason why you want to accomplish this. What is the goal? What is the purpose? For me, it was personal. It was aligned to my calling. Like if I have an assignment while I have life on earth, my education is aligned to that. To me, it was personal. My mom came when she was 15 years old from Mexico. She gave us everything. She showed me what resilience looks like. For me, this is my gift to her of saying, I honor you, my queen. Thank you for everything you gave for us. I want to do the best that I can with this opportunity you gave me. And
Hmm.
same thing with my dad. My dad was, one of my best friends. He was a drummer. I also sing. Did music together. And he was the one who taught me to be fearless. My strength and my fearlessness comes from him. My love for music comes from him. My love of God comes from him. And so when I remember what and who I'm doing this for, that motivates me to push past the struggle, push past the intimidation or the self-doubt, knowing that this has a meaning. This has value. And that's what helped me. And I would
Hmm.
encourage students to know, yes, this will be hard, but it doesn't last forever. And you'll be so grateful and you'll be a new version of yourself at the end of the journey.
That's beautiful. Can you share with us what you're currently doing?
Absolutely. So I get to now, after all those years and all that background, after going to three schools in fourth grade, I have the privilege and the honor of being able to serve a community of women. I also my both my first master's and my second master's focus on marriage and family. So I get to serve through pastoral counseling, which is an integration of psychology and theology. That's my approach with that. Counseling tends to look at the past and help people navigate and heal from the past. And more recently, I got certified as a trauma-informed mental health coach. And so I get to also help my clients move forward and plan and set goals when they feel stuck or relationally, depending on their need. I get to coach as well, which is a beautiful thing. I do that one-on-ones, couples as well. And more recently, I started group coaching, and I am passionate about this. And this is where everything falls into place. The struggles, the hardships, even my own story of how I grew up. I get to work with an incredible organization called Gems Uncovered. They are in Long Beach and they serve sex trafficking survivors. And I think it was last year in winter, I believe in November or so, or December, I was invited to be a keynote speaker at one of the graduations.
Hmm.
And after that, I was invited to lead one of their mental health group coaching sessions. And I did the first one, and then they asked me to finish the rest for their cohort. And more recently, they asked me to not only join the board and oversee mental health initiatives for the program, but I will be leading all of the coaching, the group coaching for Gems Uncovered. And yeah, I am floored because all those times that I didn't know where my education would lead, when other people question where would my education lead, like,
Hmm.
why are you doing soul care? Where, how much is that going to pay you? Like, is this going to pay your student loan? Like, what's soul care for? And back then, I'm like, I don't know where this is going. Like, I literally would say that. I don't know, but I am crystal clear that this is where I'm supposed to be, and I'm not moving. I am going to stick to this path because I have confirmation that this is where I'm supposed to be. And that led to pastoral counseling, that last class. And that led to the degree in pastoral counseling. And now, certificate that opened up the world of coaching. And now the world of coaching is opening up the world of neuroscience. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like a kid in a candy store. I don't even know, like, what do I want my doctorates to be? I feel like a kid at a candy store. But I'm excited for this opportunity to be able to serve this community at Gems Uncovered. And I know that this part of my journey is going to inform what my doctorates will be on.
Hmm.
And I love that everything has aligned itself to where it's supposed to be. And so right now I'm excited. I get to be part of the board starting in fall. And even now, just started to create new initiatives that I'll be presenting actually next week to the board, the current board. So that's some of the stuff that I'm doing now.
Congratulations, because that population needs a lot of help, support, and you are perfect for that. They are blessed to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Can you tell everyone where they can find you on social media, how to connect with you if they like to?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Instagram, I'm at Coach_Cirene. That's Cirene. And then my website is www.coachserene.com. I made it as simple as possible.
Any last words you would like to share?
First of all, thank you for creating this space. When I heard and I read about, Degree Diaries, my educational journey has been so formative and a huge part of my story, of my life story. So I jumped on the opportunity to be able to share that. So thank you for creating this space. And then again, to those who will listen in and who are thinking about higher education, who are in higher education, or who have completed and can join, these stories and relate in some way. Um, when you understand what it means to you,
Yes,
that's what matters. Like really
definitely.
reflect, what does this mean to me? How will this, add to my purpose, my calling, the role that I want to grow into in my career? When you have that clear vision, it creates a clearer pathway. And then you're able to identify your action steps. And so have that vision clear of what this means to you. Know that it will be hard. Know that it will require sacrifice. Know that you will make a lot of mistakes. Know that you will want to give up. But if we did it, if we completed it, with all the challenges that we had, whether that was motherhood and giving birth twice during grad school, whether that was, doing grad school during COVID, whatever limitations or challenges you had, even financial ones, don't let that stop you if this is your dream.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And I want to thank you for being the first on this series that I'm
Yay! Thank
hosting. And
you.
it has been a true pleasure to get to know you on a different level. I know we're in casita together. And
Yeah.
it's just been a wonderful experience. And I did mention we were going to do Instagram Live, but I did get last night a special request. Someone messaged me asking to please record it. They can't
Yes,
make it to the live, so to be on the safe side, we decided to jump on Zoom to
absolutely.
make sure that we have the recording and the person could be able to see it afterwards. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much for being flexible.
Oh, my pleasure. It was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll be back next week with another guest. See you then.